And welcome to the David's Tent Safeguarding Training. If you've received this, it means that you're part of our under 18s ministries, and we're really excited to have you on board and joining us. Every year, we ask our team builders in the under 18s ministries to complete safeguarding training to just make it sure or that it's clear what our policies are and what our procedures are so that you know what to do when you're on site. David's Tent, the safeguarding team, is comprised of 5 people. We have Amma, who is our safeguarding trustee, and she's responsible for the overseeing of safeguarding within David's Tent. We have 3 designated safeguarding leads. We've got John Kyle, who's also our managing director for David's Tent, and he oversees safeguarding year round. However, at the event, you're more likely to see one of these 2 people. So you've got Kerry and then myself, Jessica, and we are both designated safeguarding leads. Kerry's a social worker and I'm a teacher. We have slightly different responsibilities. So Kerry's brilliant with on decision making on site, making referrals to the local authority. I get to do your training, and together we both work to do the policies and the procedures, make sure they're up to date and in line with the law, and hopefully clearly communicated to you guys as well. We also have Aisha joining us this year on the safeguarding team. So if it happens that you're having to make a report to us as safeguarding, it could be that you meet Aisha as well. The really important thing about safeguarding is to remember that it's everybody's responsibility, and that comes straight from the legislation. So anyone working with children should see and speak to the child, listen to what they say, take their views seriously, and work with them and their families collaboratively when deciding how to support their needs. But what's really important to remember is when it says children, it actually means anybody under the age of 18. So that directly applies to all 3 departments within the DT, youth, kids and toddlers. And it's actually all embedded in lots of different bits of legislation, which we're not going to go into now. But if you wanted to know, just tell us and we'll be able to tell you where that's all found in that legislation. But also what's really important for us is it's not just about keeping the children safe. It's that actually we understand that safeguarding is a biblical principle. So there's a few key verses I really wanted to pull out when thinking about safeguarding, which come from the Bible. So a couple of them are in Corinthians, but there are some from the Old Testament too, and there's probably a lot more. But let's see what it says. So this makes for harmony among the members, so that all the members can care for each other. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. And if one part is honoured, all the parts are glad. All of you together are Christ's body, and each of you is a part of it. And I just felt that was really key to remember that actually it's our duty to look out for all of the members of David's Tent, and it's our stewardship and our honouring God to look out for everybody, to encourage where we need to be encouraging people, but also to look out for those that are a bit more vulnerable on site, which kind of leads into the next one. Be guard, stand firm in the faith, and be courageous, be strong. Because actually, if you do have a concern, it's never easy to bring it up. So being on guard is looking out with our faith eyes as well as our safeguarding eyes. Believe in our faith, but actually we need to be courageous and take it to the people we need to share those concerns. And the last one, his angels guards those who honour the Lord and rescue them from danger. But actually, it's our job as well to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be those people that are looking out for vulnerable individuals and actually rescuing them from what could be a dangerous situation. Not that we're predicting that we're going to come across any of that, but it's really important to always keep our eyes open. So that takes us on to the next section. Recognising need. What is abuse and neglect? Which this is some of the hard stuff to talk about, but it's really important. So somebody could abuse or neglect a child by directly inflicting harm or failing to act to prevent harm. And children and young people could be in that abusive situation in a family, in an institutional like organisation or a community setting by those known to them, or actually more rarely a stranger. they may be abused by an adult, adults, or another child or children. And actually, that's come straight for the legislation again. So we need to be aware of all those different situations. But the main thing with safeguarding is it's failing to prevent harm. So that's where there may be a lack of supervision as well. And the other key thing to remember is abuse and neglect are not about the intent or what's the intention behind those actions are happening, but it's more importantly about the effects they have on that child or young person. So we need to be thinking about what could an effect be when we think about safeguarding. Those worries or concerns that we can have about a young child or person can arise when actually they directly disclose or tell somebody what is happening to them. And we've got that real privilege of being able to minister to young people and children. And actually, that's a really vulnerable time, and that's where they may choose to share something with you. So it's about being open and being ready for those moments. You might see signs of abuse or neglect. You might see worrying changes in a child's behaviour or moods, or in how a parent or carer behaves towards a child. So that's something else to be aware of over the weekend. Somebody may actually tell you about something that they've seen or heard, or an adult or a child directly tells you that they have done something to hurt another child. So these are all things we need to be aware of. And the final one, a parent or carer tells you that they are having problems in meeting their child's needs. So again, it's about being aware, being open, and if that kind of information is shared with us, let's be sensitive, absolutely, but let's also report it up if we've got any worries or concerns or feel that person might need a bit more support. So actually, when we look at it, safeguarding and promoting the welfare of children is about protecting children or young people from maltreatment, preventing an impairment of their health or development, and ensuring that actually children are growing up in the right circumstances that are consistent with the provision of safe and effective care. And then finally, taking action to enable all children to have the best life chances. And I appreciate that that's something that might be quite difficult when we're only with them for a weekend, but it's being aware to that situation overall and knowing what to look out for just in case something does come up. So when we're thinking about keeping children safe, we also need to think about the types of abuse that may happen. What's really important to remember is it's not our responsibility to decide if an injury is accidental or not, but to share those worries and concerns if we have them. It's really easy sometimes to accept an explanation that appears totally believable at face value, but with that further thought and time and reflection, it might just not sit right with your soul anymore. And if that happens, please do come and speak to myself or Kerry about any of those worries, because all we want to do is make sure that that well-being and welfare of a child is fully protected. So when we look at the types of abuse, things to be aware of: physical abuse, which can be hitting, shaking, throwing, and any kind of physical harm to a child. It could also be emotional, so telling a child or young person that they aren't loved, that they're worthless, and not encouraging them, basically. And that's where bullying can fall into as well. Also within this section, it includes seeing or hearing the ill treatment of another. So if there are any worries that a child's being exposed to something that is not age appropriate and is not okay for their emotional well-being and welfare, then that comes into that section too. The next one is neglect, which could come with poor appearance and hygiene, health and development problems, housing and family issues, and changes in behaviour. Now, this might be more difficult for us to see within that weekend, but again, if there is something that's a concern, please raise it. The next type, which may be more for our youth department, but it's really important for us all to be aware of it, is sexual abuse. And that can be forcing or enticing a child or young person to take part in sexual activities. And it might not necessarily involve a higher level of violence. And and it doesn't even need to include whether the child is aware or not of what is happening in terms of their maturity. But if they disclose something like this, you must share it. Further ones could include exploitation, which could be other people preying on the vulnerabilities of children and young people to force them into a scenario where they need to do something, which, linking it to that bottom one, county lines, there's a lot within that to do with the shifting of illegal substances from one county to another, and actually within that is grooming, encouraging and creating a situation where a teenager or a young person is more likely to do something that somebody in a position of power has asked them to do. So that's also something we need to be aware of. The other thing is upskirting, so taking photos from underneath somebody's skirt of their intimate area is also totally not okay. So if somebody discloses something like this has happened, we need to know when it's happened, because all of these are criminal offences, so we need to be aware of that. And then the final one is domestic abuse. And just a child witnessing domestic abuse is also a type of abuse. So that's something else we need to really be aware as it could happen. And they might a child may disclose something about any of these things to us. So what happens when you have a concern? As soon as you have a concern, please can you bring it to a designated safeguarding lead? So that will either be myself or Kerry. You can reach us through the radio. Your team leads will know which channel you're on. So if you just ask your team lead and they'll be able to get in touch with us, and then we'll come to you, we'll take the concern and support you with that process as well. As soon as you have a concern, what's really important to do is to record it down. And you can do that just by simply taking a bit of paper and scribbling on all those key points of information. You need to record your concerns or the direct disclosure that has been made by the young person. Write it down within an hour of it happening, because that means it's still fresh in your mind and some of those details maybe won't go missing if you're then on shift and come back to do it later. So as I said, find a piece of paper, make sure there are no gaps on the page with your writing, and write down exactly what's happened. Don't include your feelings or how it could be interpreted, we just need the facts. Make sure you include the child's name or the young person's name, when it happened and where. The important thing with this as well is to not promise to keep it a secret to the child. Sometimes they will ask us to, but we can't do that, and it's not fair on them to say that we will and then break our word. So the best way to go about it is probably say, thank you so much for sharing with me, that was really brave. Part of my job is to help you, and to help you I might need to tell other adults. If they ask you to keep it a secret before telling you what they want to say, tell them again that you might have to share it with other adults to help them. If at that point they choose not to make a disclosure, we can't force them into doing it. It's still up to them if they choose to share it or not. The other important thing is to not discuss it with anybody else, just us as the designated safeguarding leads, and that's because we want to protect that young person's privacy. We don't want to be sharing all of their news amongst everybody else. So it's really, really important to just keep it to those that are directly involved. So yourself and then us as the designated safeguarding leads. If we decide that we do need to share some information with your team leads or your department head, please know that that's something that we will do. Dealing with concerns is never easy, so if you feel like you need some prayer or pastoral support, please feel free to ask Kerry or I. It's what we all love Jesus, so we can do that with you as well after a situation that may have happened. And if you don't want it to be us, that's okay. We might just direct you to some people that may be able to help you with that too. So now we've learned about the different types of abuse, it's actually time to think about ourselves and how we conduct ourselves and be safer with what we're doing. Firstly, just avoid being alone with a child or young person. It's that simple. Make sure you're always in sight of others. Don't go behind a closed door or marquee door at this point. but just make sure it's always open, which kind of leads on as well into making sure that our behaviour is open and transparent. Actually, if we've got nothing to hide, if it's being open all the time. So it's adopting those higher standards and that kind of morality as well, of actually just how we conduct ourselves within our time and how we're being with others. So actually that means that our behaviour outside of the tent for toddlers, kids or youth should be the same wherever we are. So if you're in the resource centre, or if you're going to listen to a talk, or you're in the big top, or you're by the ministry, or actually just getting food, who you are as a person should be the same in all those environments, because those people are going to recognise you wherever you are. So let's make sure that we're keeping those standards up as well. It's key as well to remember about kind of what David's tent expects of our standards of behaviour, which hopefully have been shared with you. But first and foremost, just stick to what the Bible says. It's fairly simple, hopefully. Another one is about never giving an individual child or young person a gift that isn't part of the formal rewards policy. Might not be happening in your tent, and that's okay, but just be aware of that as well. Which leads on to physical touch. Just try and avoid physical touch where possible, and make sure it's about the child's needs first, not our needs. Be appropriate, be in the sight of others. Because actually sometimes there might be a child in distress or a young person in ministry time, and actually it is appropriate for us to provide comfort when they are seeking it and they're asking for it. So a little side hug is all right. All of that type of thing. It's just about making sure that we're being appropriate with our actions and transparent as well. And also think about things like male, female and age ranges, and actually if they're quite close in age, that's maybe not so appropriate. All of those types of things. So make sure that we're being open, transparent, appropriate with our physical touch, and it's actually about their needs, not ours. We'd also say at this point that any child over the age of 6 shouldn't be sat on any laps. Under 6, okay, but over 6, definitely not. We're also going to chat a bit about here social media, which is probably more for our youth team, but you'd be surprised how many young primary school age children have Snapchat and things like that. I think it's just really important. We're going to do a blanket statement. Don't accept friend requests, follows, direct messages on any social media from a young person that you have met at David's tent and been a team build for. We just want to keep you safe, and it's not really appropriate. The other thing to touch on is actually, if you already know a child or youth member that is coming to David's tent and your paths may cross, just stick to our guidelines for this weekend, because you know that child or young person, but everybody else around you might not know about that relationship. So again, it's just about keeping you safe and keeping our behaviour open and transparent as well. So other bits about keeping safe, and it's always a big one, toilets, because everyone needs to pee. For youth, this isn't an issue, but for kids and toddlers, there is an aspect to it. If you're in the kids' tent, a child's going to go, I need a wee. Cool, you're allowed to go for a wee. What happens is you're going to have toilets in the garden area outside. So just let one of the other team builders near to you know, oh look, this is Tiddles, they need a wee. You're going to then walk with them to the open back door into the garden. You as a team builder are then going to stay put in that doorway. So you're in full sight of everybody else in that main kids tent. And then the kid can go off and walk and pee in the toilet, and then they can come back. Nice and simple, hopefully. Then what we're going to do with toddlers, they're kind of split into 2 groups, which is different. So if they're in the under 3s bit, they're going to be accompanied by their parent. So if they need changing, their parent can do it. Aren't you blessed, team leaders and builders, to not be changing lots of nappies? Whereas if they're in the 3 to 5s and they're using a toilet, just make sure you're going in pairs, because sometimes, clothing can be quite difficult when you're still aged 3 to 5. So if they need a bit of help, that's fine. Make sure you go in pairs, one to support the child and one to watch the team build that is supporting the child. And again, make sure it's all in sight and everybody knows what's going on. If there is a child in that older category that might need changing, make sure, again, it's always with 2 people, or if not, then make sure it's an open sight of others as well. So hopefully that all makes sense for you guys. So another aspect of keeping kids safe in our tents is photos and phones. I'm going to read the first bullet point because it's really important. If you are with the children or young people, do not take photos on your personal phone. Can't stress this enough. Don't do it. If you're on shift, just keep your phone in the designated team area. If it's not there, you're not going to be tempted to be like, oh, look, they made this amazing thing and wasn't it great? No, don't take a picture. Actually, the only people that can come in and take photos are the official DT photographers, and they will potentially come in. Part of my extra role on registration, the team leads will know if there are any individuals that can't have a photo taken, but those official DT photographers are the only ones taking pictures. So another bit, if a call needs to be made to a parent, your team lead or the kids registration team will make that call. So if your child's saying, I can't find my mummy, can you call them? I know their number. Just say, actually, I'm going to find like my team lead or the registration team's going to call them and we'll do that for you. So then it takes away that stress if a child asks as well. The other thing to be aware of, especially in things like family sessions that might be going on, if you see another person taking what might appear to be a photo and actually it's just of the kids' tent in general, it's okay and it's our responsibility to gently challenge that. And I know I've had to do it when I was in kids before and just say, I'm really sorry. I'm trying to make sure that all of our children are being kept safe. Were you just taking a photo in the kids' tent? They might say no, and that's totally okay. But if they go, oh yeah, I was actually, then you are totally within your right as a team build and to steward that space and say, it's really lovely what's going on here and we love that you're enjoying it, but actually to keep our children safe, if it isn't just your child in that photo, please can you delete it and stay with them until you've seen them delete it. As I said, the DT photographers will bring in pictures round, that's great, but do have that authority to say we want to keep the space safe, and challenge that if you do see it. And actually most parents want their children to be kept safe, so hopefully there won't be any discord there. But if you do need some backup, grab your team lead as well. It's also really important to talk about prayer. Hopefully you are going to have the opportunity to pray with the wonderful under 18s that are within your areas, whether that's youth, kids or toddlers. But there are some guidances around prayer and hopefully you'll have eyes on the prayer ministry guidelines as well. Ultimately, prayer should always be safe, respectable, appropriate and accountable. With our under 18s, we've all saying that it should only be given within the areas such as youth, kids or toddlers, and not just when you're out and about seeing the children, if you haven't got your team builder t-shirt on, that kind of thing, just to protect yourselves as well. Our general safer practice continues within prayer, so pray safely in pairs, put it in an open space and keep it visible. With our under 18s, we also say please not to touch them. Encourage them to open their hand, hold them out or put a hand over their heart, that's totally okay. But again, we're trying to avoid that touch. I know very long time ago when I was in kids tent, we had wonderful things like power showers and fire tunnels that the children would be able to stand in, and then we could pray around them. So use those spaces because they can be such a blessing. It's really important to respect their boundaries as well. You can offer to pray, but they are still allowed to say no, and we're going to respect that as well. There are lots of other points. Always keep prayer encouraging. Also, if they are then disclosing something within prayer, remember as well, don't keep it a secret. Make sure that you can declare it to us, as safeguarding does remain
paramount as well within that. So if anything does come up, please report it to us. But hopefully there will be huge blessings that come out of your praying with them.
So just to conclude and wrap up everything that we've learnt so far in this video, the important things are in the little graph below, but we'll just go through them. So the first one is believe. Believe that it can happen here. Just because we're a Christian festival does not mean that safeguarding doesn't exist. Pay attention, express curiosity to what's going on around you, and the environments that you're in. And that's not just when you're in your tent for youth, kids or toddlers, but when you're about as well. Look at the way that children appear, how they're behaving, and evaluate what you see. If you think it doesn't quite seem right, note it down and come to us. Listen, children talk to people that they trust, and we're in a really privileged position to be with them over this weekend, and there may be things that come up that they'd like to share with a trusted person. Remember to record down any concerns that you have or any disclosures as soon as possible. Put down the time and the date as well that it's happened. And remember to have conversations or refer. So pass on your concerns to either myself or Kerry as designated safeguarding leads, and remember to keep them to yourself. I hope all of that makes sense. We're really looking forward to seeing you at David's tent, and if you have any questions, please email the safeguarding email. See you there.